Video is about how to get started with Illuminating Contours Tanaka style, exercise 113 from QGS Map Design. And for this, we'll need two different layers, the Seattle contours and the Seattle DEM. So you should bring them both in. But one thing you'll notice right away is if you look at where the DEM is, and then I zoom to where the contours are, they're in completely different places. And the reason for that is if we go under the properties here, the coordinate reference system here is a generated coordinate reference system, and the one here for Seattle contours is the World Geographic System 84. So they're in different coordinates. So the first thing we have to do is we have to go over here and set the projection. And this is that tool called Assign Projection. I'm going to double click on Assign Projection. And I'm going to do this to the Seattle contours. The output, the assigned one that I want to use is the generated. So I'm going to type in generated. And that one should come up. Make sure it's the same one as is used here because there's a bunch of generated ones. Say OK, and I'm going to put this, I'm going to save this to file, projects, I'll call this contour 2, save, and then I'm going to run it. After I run it, it's going to generate a new layer, which comes in right on top. So to not confuse myself, I'm going to get rid of this layer, and this is the layer that I'm going to work with, this green one here, which is called Assign CRS due to the command. I'm going to go under its symbology, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to break this up into a lot of little line segments. Basically, every place a new point defines a line, we're going to break it into a new segment. So instead of using a simple line here, we're going to generate a geometry, and I'm just going to change this color to black so it looks good. And for this geometry generator, it's currently set to the geometry of the lines themselves, but I'm going to reset that. And this is a little snippet from your book. This is the kind of map we're trying to look to get, right? A illuminated contour map. And the first little snippet that we'll use is just a single line right here. Say OK, and OK. And I forgot to do one thing. It's not a polygon, it's a line. Say OK. And now it's built all these lines for us. And if we zoomed in to an area, if we made the simple line, instead of a simple line, if we made it an arrow symbol, and these arrows are really big, so I'm just going to reset the width here, 1.5, 1.5. And say OK, and I'm going to change the color once again to black. OK, and now if I zoom in on an area here, I can see what they're talking about on the book, that basically we've just taken these lines and broken them down into a bunch of little line segments that look like that. So each one of these is going to have the ability now to have its color, its black and white, and its thickness to be changed. So the way that we do that is we go back in here, and I'm going to go back here, change it from arrow back to simple line, and that all looks good. And I'm going to change two different things. I'm on the simple line here. I'm going to change the color and the stroke width. So let's start with the stroke width, because this one we can cut and paste from the book. I'm going to go under Edit the Stroke Width. And it brings this up. So the place that we get the snippet for editing the stroke width is all of this material, all of this material right here. I'm going to copy, paste that here, say OK. And I'm just going to say OK to see what this looks like now. So now that we can see that the width is changing depending on what the orientation of the line is. And it doesn't look great when we're zoomed in like this, but it'll look better later. There's one other thing we have to change here for the simple line, and that is the color, because we want it to be white on the side that's being illuminated and black on the side that's in the shadows. So if I click on color here, I'm going to once again go under Edit, And it's a similar one. This one is shown in this box here. So you're not able to cut and paste that, but what you can do is just bring it into a text editor for the what you did for the stroke width, which I cut and pasted in already, and then you just have to modify it a little bit to get to the color. So I'm just going to take what I modified here, copy, and paste it in here. Say OK, and say OK again. So now we can see that places where things are facing towards the sun, they're getting lighter in color. If I zoom out a little, we can see that places facing towards the sun are getting lighter in color. Places facing away from the sun are getting darker in color. And this is the type of effect we're looking for. And there's other ways to make this look better, getting rid of the small lines and kind of blending this in with the other layer. But let me talk about one other thing here. When you zoom out, it might not look as good. And to see what it really looks like, you might want to put out a PDF or a JPEG image in order to see how it really looks. But because the lines are just changing so quickly that just the display kind of gets in the way here. But the other thing you want to do is you want to change the color scheme for the Seattle DEM. And that's the underlying grayscale, right? If I turn that off, all the contours are still there, but the underlying grayscale has gone away. So the way that you do that is you simply go in here under symbology, and then you go under here, single band pseudo color. You'll keep this at linear, and then you'll pick one here that you think kind of matches the way the colors change from the bathymetry in the bay around Seattle up to the high hills of Seattle, and just kind of choose a color ramp. This is one that's often used just for the land, but we'd have to invert that because it's starting with the low colors, and there's no blues for the waters there either. So you might want to look for ones that go from blue in the water to a different color up high in the land. For example, this one's a little purpley, but and it's a very bright color scheme. But we can try this one if we want to. You say OK, and then that puts those colors in the background. If you want to see where it changes from water to land, that would be the 0 contour. So if you use this information one here and click on the tab here, it'll show. Oops, I have the DEM selected. Let me do the contours because it's a little easier to read. And then information. And if I click on any of these contours here, for example, this one, I can see over here that the elevation is minus 120. So I think these are 40-foot contours. There's the minus 100. I'm sorry, the 20-foot contours. So the land's going to start somewhere right around here. This is the elevation of 0 here. So this would be where the distinction between the land and the water is. So you can also base your colors on that and try to get as close to what we see here in the book on this page here.